I don't see it yet. Do not see it yet. So go on my phone. Oh, are we here? Oh, we're here. Okay. I had to check on my phone because my computer Twitch is just not showing me that we are officially live. Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. I am here. It is Thursday, and as you know, it is Faery with Teeth author narration time, but I have a special guest in the studio with me today. So let me bring her on in. It is Ms. Lauren Small. And Lauren today is taking the presence of a queen of fairy. That's so perfect. That's perfect. So, well, and Lauren, of course, Queen Lauren, has the ability to interrupt me at any time she wants to. Or wait until I finish a chapter and then we'll kind of have some fun chat going back and forth. But it will be a different kind of Fairy with Teeth today. And we are not in Palea. I think I saw that somewhere. I wanted this to be posted to just chatting, but I think it's going to a game. So I apologize for that if it is. Anyways, okay. I can't see it. My computer Twitch is just not showing me anything. So I have to rely on my phone. Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
Okay.
Are you ready, Lauren?
I am ready to hear what everybody's up to in that book.
Okay, well, let's find out. So I'm going to I gotta find it here. I'm gonna pin me and read for you.
Okay.
Let's see, Confession, page 242 is where we're going to continue reading. Unaware of what was left behind, the bus rolled down the road, and remember, they're leaving behind the Shawnee, the evil Shawnee who just spilled blood in an ancient stone circle on his own property at Loch Gur in order to summon Vivian McFarland and the Druid and their group into Loch Gur Inn so that he could manipulate and siphon off their power and energy for himself and for legions. So this is a confession. They're in the bus. Unaware of what was left behind, the bus rolled down the road, heading for Bruff. Inside, the laughter had quieted into a low rumble and mumble of conversation. Vivian looked up as Ken sat down next to her. "We found the cave," he exclaimed. "Huh?" Vivian was distracted by her own thoughts. Oh, good," she mumbled, smiling, not really listening to him. "So when will we visit the stone circle?" he asked. Steve, sitting in the seat behind her, perked up. He leaned forward. "Yes, the Grange. When do we go to the Grange?" he asked. Vivian stiffened. She peered over her shoulder at Steve's ruddy face, then into Ken's blue eyes. Damn, the Grange. She had forgotten all about it, and the Giant's Grave, and the Lunar Stone Circle, and the Bardic College. A bad feeling swept through her gut. There was no way she wanted to visit any of those sites. "Tomorrow," said Vivian in appeasement. "We'll visit them tomorrow on our way out of the area." She politely smiled at both men before turning her head to look out the window. Steve and Ken looked at each other in the awkward silence that followed her dismissal of them. Steve settled back in his seat, fumbling with the headphones to his portable CD player. He felt bruised. Vivian had simply dismissed him, and he had not asked her for anything during the entire tour except now. Steve studied the back of Vivian's head, wondering why she disliked him so much. Finding no answer, he sighed, slipped the headphones in place, and pushed the play button. He cringed as Robert Plant shouted in his ears, "Sing into an ocean, I can hear the oceans roar." Okay, I'm a bad singer, but Steve held up the player so he could turn down the volume, thinking that at least he had good taste in music. Surely Vivian liked Led Zeppelin. Ken turned and eyed Kian as foreplay to making conversation with him. Thinking better of it, he made his way back to his own seat and flopped down next to Ellen, who flashed him a tentative smile. Kian sat with arms folded across his chest and eyes closed, aware of the movement across the aisle, taking in the brief conversation, Steve's request, Vivian's hesitation, her dismissal of the two men. He was sure Ken had sat staring at him before moving back to his regular seat. Somehow, Ken also knew that if he opened his eyes and glanced at Vivian, she would be staring out the window. She was in one of those moods, quiet, withdrawn. He did. He opened his eyes and glanced at her, and just as he suspected, she was staring out the window. Tears glistened on her cheek. That Kian hadn't expected. Throwing a glance over his shoulder, he scooted across the aisle to Vivian's seat. He put his arm on the backrest around her and leaned in. He didn't care who saw or what anyone thought. Vivian needed him now, and even if she didn't, he needed to comfort her, to reconnect before all was ruined. Vivian would not look at Kian, even when he laid his hand gently over hers. He could see her bite down on her bottom lip and close her eyes, the long lashes of her upper eyelids framed out over the tears. And as another tear slipped out, it beaded between her lashes, catching the sunlight, glistening, blue, green, yellow. This amazed Kian, the magic of Vivian's tears, the drama of their existence, and without another thought, he gently touched the moisture with the tip of his finger and turned it so he could look upon it, half expecting that the array of colors would be reflected on his fingertips. When Kian looked back to Vivian's face, her green eyes were wide and staring at him. Such sad eyes, Kian realized, wondering if the sorrow was because of the bard. He was shocked when Vivian laid her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Kian, why are you so angry with me?" Kian felt the softness of Vivian's hair between his fingers and lowered his head so that his lips touched her forehead as he spoke softly to her. "Why do you make me your messenger?" he asked, betraying the gaze she had Carla place him under. "My what?" Vivian repeated just as softly. Kian's arm closed around the back of her neck as he brought his hand to rest on her shoulder. "Do you really love the bard?" he asked, biting off the last word, choking on it. He tilted his head so he could see Vivian's eyes. Confusion and surprise registered in them. Her brows furrowed together. Vivian shook her head. "Why do you ask?" "Because of the poems, the letter," he calmly replied. It was clear she did not know of that which she spoke by the expression that colored her face, by the way her lips opened, forming in a silent question. She straightened herself, turning in her seat to face him so that their eyes were level. She looked from one eye to the other as if only one of them could provide her with clarity. Cian smoothed his goatee over his chin, ran his hand down over his neck, and arched his head back while choosing what next to say. Now it was obvious that there was more going on here than either of them knew or had even suspected. He dropped his hand and pulled his arm away from the back of the seat to lean forward. With arms resting on the top of his thighs, hands clasped together over his knees, Cian stared out the front window, shaking his head. He should have suspected something wasn't right the first time Carla gave him a note. It had been such a strange thing for her to do and really was very uncharacteristic of Vivian. Vivian leaned forward, imitating Cian's posture. She peered and pressed her shoulder against his. He looked at her and smiled, a weary smile that communicated so many things: that she was lost, that she didn't grasp the full scope of his meaning. Is there something I don't know about? In response, Cian laughed, shaking his head in wonder before turning to look at her, licking his lips as if to speak, but rather than doing so, simply nodding his head. His brown eyes so serious looking, coming to rest steadily on her. Vivian gently took one of Cian's hands and gave it a squeeze. I'm not ideal, you know. His words startled both of them. I'm hell to live with, just ask Cindy. He turned his hand so that it closed around hers. Her hand seemed to fit perfectly in his. He smiled at how small it looked against his own. Faery Chronicle entry 2.222.4. Time bent, slowing in the bus, lulling the other passengers into their own quiet contemplation, not worrying about the other people around them. Eyes glazed, focusing inward on some past memory or expedition, or into the blankness that comes before daydreams are given the opportunity to take on a little of their own. Like the gentle rockin' felt in a mama's arms, the bus rocked each pilgrim farther away from any possibility of observation. Between and around the woman and the man, the two mortals, time accelerated, turning into the next spiral, taking them deeper into a private dome of relating. Their love was real, most real. And the emotions each felt were privately shared by both. Relief and fear mixed together as brown danced with green, both unwilling to break the connection, the intimate connection of knowing, of professing that which had been denied for several years. Each year having been a step leading to that moment. I couldn't help but wonder if the deepness of their emotion had been our fault, actually mock us. Would they have succumbed to such feelings had she not woven them into the drama of her plan, silently given them a divine mission, which only Vivian had seemed capable of realizing, and then only a tiny fragment of? Aware of the dangerous line I was suddenly standing at, I couldn't help but consider the thought of taking action, stepping in and helping Vivian, knowing full well what could happen if I did. I did not know you would come, Cian confessed. The pain in his words cut into Vivian's heart. I didn't know to wait. Had I known, I would have never married Cindy, never gotten her pregnant. Pain edged his eyes with tear, bringing the same to hers so that they were reflections of the same emotion, the same knowing, the same understanding. I never got that far in the fantasy, she confessed. I just wanted to love you. I'm sorry. No, no, love, don't apologize. he cooed, as if to a tiny, frightened fledgling that had fallen from the nest. Not over your love, so warm and real and ready to exist. We've arrived in broth. Joe's loud voice shattered the dome. The pieces clanked to the ground. Kian and Vivian withdrew from their intimacy, straightening in their seat, forced to divert their attention, wide-eyed and terrified suddenly of what had just transpired. A confession of love.
Mm.
Well, and there you have it. I'm bringing you back in.
Yeah. Wow. What a confession.
What a confession,
After all this time, finally.
finally.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and Vivian is kind of wrong, but whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
It is, after all, a fantasy fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on page 247. Do you have any questions before I continue, or any
No, I don't have
comments,
a
oh
question.
fairy queen?
Just what's happening next? What's happening? Read.
Back to the present. That's the division header. Back to the present. See? Back
Okay.
to the
Oh,
present. So that whole time we've been in memory.
okay.
Now we're
That's
going back into that pub, back into that pub at the top of page 249. A pub. The iron clasp of the pub door clanked loudly. Vivian's eyes popped open. She jolted out of her reverie back into the present. Above, the beige ceiling came into focus. She could see the hanging lamps with green shades and the water stains near one corner of the pub lounge. She ran her hands over the smooth red vinyl of the seat beneath her. Beside her, Joe and Carla still sat in conversation, oblivious to her movements and sudden attention. The sound of silverware still clinked on dishes, but now the lovely soprano of Mayrid Sullivan sang from the corner speakers. I don't know the tune to this song, so I'm just going to say it. Color me, painting with a memory that used to be. It's just me, echoing the music of a distant land.
Mm.
Kian's laughter jumped through the room. Vivian raised her head off the seat back and spotted him standing at a table talking with some of the pilgrims. The sight of him brought a smile to Vivian's lips. She thought what a lovely feeling it was to see him as she spotted the Aaron Go Bra poster mounted on the wall behind him. So much had already happened, so much, and she felt so weary, so exhausted.
Mm.
She looked down at the plate on the table before her and picked up a chip, popping it into her mouth. The reverie had done her good, had quenched the need to cry, even though it had not given her all of the answers she needed. Vivian also knew that anything could still happen. They were still in the Lochgur area, would be for another night, and they had finally confessed their love to each other. She entitled herself another glance at Kian, who was just walking up to the table, his eyes on her, a warm smile on his lips. He sat down and scooted in next to her. He certainly looked happier than he had in days. This pleased Vivian. Actually, she herself felt happier than she had in days, or maybe it was a relief, the relief that comes after the worst fears have been proven wrong. Perhaps not all her fears have been put to bed by their confessions to one another, or at least not those having to do with the energy at Lochgur or any of that. But it was still good knowing that someone else felt the same as you did.
Mm.
At that moment, Vivian would not afford herself even a glimpse of the improbability of her having a life with Kian. That truth would have to wait, and she had a sense of when it would need to spring fully to life, but that was still a few days away. Right now, all that mattered was that they did share the same feelings and the warm smile he was giving her at the moment. I'll stay here with anyone who wants to stay, he informed her, a new confidence to the sound of his voice. Last time I went to knock on ya, me testicles went numb. He grinned. It's a woman's place. Joe burst into laughter, almost choking on his food. Carla laughed and patted his back. Kian leaned across the table, playfully leering at the leprechaun. And your man over here has to drive the bus, he teased, glancing over his shoulder at Vivian, who sat with an amused expression on her face. Better cover them good, he warned Joe, who playfully covered his crotch with his hands. Oh, me testicles are going numb, Joe said in a high-pitched voice. What a git, Kian said, jabbing his thumb toward Joe. Better watch out for that one, he told Vivian, his brown eyes twinkling. He's no good. Oh, no! Joe's high voice came again. Shut up, you wanker. Kian reached across the table to thump him on the head. Now get this group into action, he commanded, grinning and sitting back against the red vinyl lounge seat next to Vivian. Joe and Carla moved into action, organizing the second half of the day with the pilgrims, while Kian and Vivian looked longingly at one another, glancing at the others now and then, waiting for the cue to take their respective roles, knowing that they'd be parting from each other's companies for the afternoon. A brief parting that held the sweet promise of reunion later in the day. That's the end of that chapter. That's the end of that chapter.
That was a quick one.
That was a quick one. Some are quick, some are long.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me take a quick peek here. Let me take a quick peek here. It's still not playing on my Twitch. Shows I'm live, but it's not showing me the video. So I don't know what's going on with that.
It's funny.
But on my phone, I see us.
Oh, that's good.
Hello there. All right. Questions? Any questions? Oh, my nose is itching.
No, I don't have any questions.
And nobody in Viewerland ever has any questions, so
No, they don't. We don't. Usually I'm there.
I know you are.
Yeah.
I know you are, but what am I? All right. Okay, here we go. We're going out to Nakonya,
Okay.
page 252. 6 of the pilgrims went with Vivian to Nakonya. Joe parked the bus alongside the road, waved them goodbye, and stretched out to take a nap. Although the sky threatened rain and an icy wind whipped their hair sharply across faces, the group of 7 made their way across the pasture, over electrical cattle fences, and up an uneven incline. Almost there, Vivian said, halting. Take a moment to ground and center yourself with this sacred site. Tune in to the vibration of this fairy haunt and open your heart to connect with Onya, the ancient Irish goddess of love and fertility, to whom this sacred shrine is dedicated. Pilgrims have enacted her fertility rite here every summer solstice well into the 19th century. So it hasn't laid dormant for more than 100 years, maybe less. The solitude of the site engulfed the small group, the only sound that of the wind. Each person closed her or his eyes and breathed deeply, fully, quieting the mind. When everyone opened their eyes again, Vivian grinned at the only man in the group. So, kid, are your testicles going numb? Laughter broke out. My what? Ken gasped. Well, Ken refuses to come up here because he says that when he did last time, his testicles went numb. So he doesn't think this is a man's place. Ken grinned. The challenge was on. He'd gone for the bait. Ellen patted him on the back. It's okay, dear. If your testicles go numb, I won't take notice. The women howled. Ken's cheeks colored. Vivian headed off with a wave of her hand. She didn't want the teasing to get too out of hand. Then she saw it. She froze and gasped as her mind registered the sudden fear creeping up the back of her neck. Lying directly in their path was a dead rabbit, its eyes open, unseen.
Mm.
What does it mean? Inquired Shelby, a tinge of tremor to her voice. Her hands curled into fists at the thought. She stared at Vivian, who wouldn't take her eyes from the stiff carcass. Shelby felt the unsettling feeling of fear creep back into her mind, the same feeling she had gotten earlier at Loch Gur. Fertility may be dead here, Vivian finally whispered. What do you mean? Asked Ken. Well, the rabbit is an ancient symbol for fertility. A dead rabbit is blocking our way as we're heading for an ancient fertility site. Damn. Jerking her head away, Vivian looked up. What did it mean? Weren't they supposed to work this site anymore? Were they unwanted even here? She swore again and moved off to the left. She had to think and think fast. Kian wasn't here. She needed him, needed his strength. Suddenly, Vivian felt vulnerable again. It had been many years since she'd felt so vulnerable to the other world, and now it seemed to be a regular occurrence. She swore again under her breath and stopped in her tracks. The small group following almost ran into her back. Look, I got to figure this out. I'm not sure if we should work here. I need to think. She studied the green clover at her feet, glanced up to the sky and then to the horizon. The others kept a short distance from her, remaining quiet, watching. The sweet memory of Beltane edged through her mind. The image of Lou came to memory, their walk, his eyes, his smile blending into Kian's smile, Kian's face, the bus ride home, shopping at the Mullingar pewter factory. Sweet memories that momentarily distracted her until a sharp wind slapped the side of her face. She glanced at Carla and the others waiting patiently for her. Oh, if she, ah, every experience could be so sweet as Beltane. Why could it not? Searching the firs blockade for an opening, and there, as if suddenly created, appeared two clear openings through the brush. This way, she called above the wind, causing the others to jump at the sudden intrusion of her voice. Slipping and sliding up the dirt bank, crawling cautiously through the prickly firs, they made their way up and scrambled to secure ground. Once on top, Vivian searched the unfamiliar territory. I think it's this way, she said, walking forward. Carla walked beside her, bundled in a blue raincoat, the hood pulled tight around her face. Vivian could tell Carla was uncomfortable and that something was bothering her. Carla had become very quiet, keeping to herself, and Vivian wondered if it didn't have something to do with the poems that Kian had mentioned. So, Vivian, asked Shelby, her long, wheat-colored hair a mass of tangles, what do you think this all means? Oh, I can only guess, she responded, but Kian and I have had some talks. She met Carla's eyes. All I can say is that this area doesn't want us. Maybe we're a threat to it. I didn't think the darkness had pulled out so far, all the way out here. You mean the darkness at Loch Gur? Asked Ken. Right. See, at Ishnok, we work the heart center, polarity, and our focus is to merge the dualities, merge goddess and god back together in the heart, so that a great healing takes place on our planet. Do you think we're doing that? Marcella asked. Vivian glanced at her, stopped, and looked around. Yeah, I really do. More than we realize, and because we're successful, we're maybe a threat to this area where darkness is concentrated. So that's why we threaten places like Loch Gur, stated Ken. It's an area of darkness. Right. But I thought Anya is connected to this area, asked Ellen, her lovely pixie face unusually serious. Oh, she is, Vivian confirmed, her eyes intent on Ellen. But we were kept from getting to her power center at the lock. In fact, I feel that they are trying to keep us from getting to her shrine here. I can't help but feel that if we don't, all fertility will die in this part of the land, which means the dark will grow stronger and continue to spread. Who are they? Asked Kat. Out of the corner of Vivian's eye, she saw something move. Deja vu. The movement triggered the memory of the watcher stepping out from the alcove in Crane Bane West. She shuddered. The blur of a hair jerked her attention to it as it jumped out of nowhere and went racing off to the east, bounding over a stone fence. Follow that hair, cried Vivian, pointing. She'll take us to Anya's shrine. How do you know? Asked Ken. Because it's a sign. Always follow animal allies, she yelled over her shoulder as she ran after the rodent. And sure enough, once they scrambled over another fence, before them rose two small mounds. Faith restored, Vivian breathed a sigh of relief. The sign given, taken, and followed rewarded them. Now they could work the site, connect with Onya, and receive her blessing. Life was grand. Life was sweet. And without a moment's hesitation, the ceremony unfolded. Vivian was not going to waste any time getting the energy moving, connecting with the fairy energy here. Vivian guided them instantly to the guardian tree, a small twisted holly growing next to a granite boulder she referred to as the Holy Stone. Per her instructions, each person tied a red strip of cloth onto one of the branches in the guardian tree. Accept this, Onya, each whispered as they made the votive offering to the she. After doing so, they gathered in a hollow concave in the ground, located between the guardian tree and the holly stone and the rising of one of the mounds. The group stood silently with eyes closed, all except Vivian, whose eyes watched as furious clouds blackened the sky above. Ah, Vivian wanted to cry out, I beat you. We win this round. Look, we're standing at the hill of fertility. Look, the goddess of love welcomes us, embraces us. You lost this time. Ha! But the wind suddenly howled, and Vivian knew the beings of darkness were enraged. She gritted her teeth, determined to finish what she'd started, feeling herself grow cold with the challenge. Faery Chronicle entry 2.333.1. What Vivian did not know was that even as the beings of darkness stirred, we too stirred. And on the hill where she and the small group gathered, several of we fairy also stood watching. Even in the eye of such darkness, these seven people who honored life, gave reverence to the sacred shrine, and desperately sought to connect with the monster fairy princess they believed was being kept hostage, or indeed being honored themselves. For 1 hour, these seven mortals found a way in. They crept into an envisioned prison to love and be loved. Each stood at the top of the mound before a granite pillar stone and laid their hands upon it, whispering words of faith. The last to take the place of honor was Vivian, and as she stood in deep revere, a howling wind lifted her hair about her head. From below, as the others looked up to gaze upon her act of reverence, her silhouette became that of the Medusa. In hindsight, Vivian would see the grayness of the day as a reflection of the rising darkness within her own heart. For to combat darkness, one must know it. And she knew darkness, and this reality would make her shudder. And as she filled with it to overflowing, She struggled to savage the crystal fire Lu had ignited within her heart. White knuckles gripped the pillar before her. Images of love floated in her mind. The gentle smile of Justin, the chubby cheeks of her son's beautiful little face, softness, warm bodies. It had been so long since she'd felt a warm body love hers. And then he was there, his face, his smile, his eyes. Yet she pushed the image aside. Love, she whispered to the fairy as the memories faded into the reality of the present. So much had already happened. Sometimes it was a little hard to fathom. She swallowed and closed her eyes. The dark sky blackened around her. Somehow she knew, Vivian knew that she and the 6 other people who'd come with her out to this holy site had won the first round, but that just as the 6 of Wands tarot card predicted, the glory was transitory, temporary. Still, Vivian relished in the feeling of satisfaction over this small victory.
Mm.
She needed to believe that Onya was indeed loving and blessing them with her raw power. Then came a thought from outside of herself, or so it seemed, an intrinsic knowing that Onya had died for Banba. Vivian looked off across the landscape, the undulating pasture, the ridge with the solitary oak, the distant mountain range that rose a deep purple against the angry sky, and she felt as if today she'd somehow saved Onya from another death. The tables had turned. Vivian's eyes filled with tears that slowly trickled down her face. She didn't care how insane it sounded, even to her, let alone to others, but living mythological reality was definitely hard, but fascinating. She looked down at her white knuckles, at her hands gripping the edge of the shrine, and loosened her grip. Slowly, the color returned to her fingers. Spiritual love, she whispered to the minions dancing around her, teasing her hair into rising snakes. All I ask for Onya is spiritual love with Kian. The small group standing at the base of the mound in witness noticed how a place in the dark clouds lightened and how a beam of sunlight sliced through, illuminating the patchwork landscape below. Carla marveled that Onya's power was flowing into them, and whether or not any of them truly felt anything different, each felt an undeniable surge of renewal, of tenderness, and they huddled together. When Vivian joined them, wearing a huge smile on her face, they whooped like Indians, raising arms into the air, shaking fists at the invisible faces of imaginary adversaries. Yes, even in the midst of adversity, they felt victorious. They felt proud and strong. They felt invincible. They each left the shrine of the love goddess a little perkier, perhaps even borderline giddy. They felt bonded as a group, which made them feel good about one another, as if they had received something special, something that the others who had stayed at the pub missed out on. I gotta pause there for a moment. I had to do a time check. Plus, I needed a moment to take a sip of water. However, continuing in this chapter on page 258.
Okay.
Faery-Chronicle entry 2.333.2. Each mortal receives something special For the grey-eyed goddess of love and fertility, the Munster fairy princess Anya, looked on this small group with fondness. These believers were keeping her alive. Banva had saved her from perishing. Awakened and regenerated, Anya's power was able to flourish. She shoved the encroaching darkness back by several miles. Her minions whirled through the air, stirring the vortex, opening the gateway. This transformation allowed the force of love, the fifth element, to alter the heaviness of the atmosphere, allowing that sliver of sunshine, the freedom to slice through the dark clouds, illuminating the field through which the elated, love-struck believers walked. Anya would give to each that which he or she requested. Anya smiled. She watched Vivian slip between two pieces of barbed wire fence, leaving the hill behind, entering back into the mortal world. Come back to my love soon, Banva, soon, Anya sighed, before slipping back into the crystal palace within the hollow hill of her shrine. She turned and faced Lou, who awaited her. You always did support her, Lou gently accused. Yes, she was our cousin, and she was always good to me, said Anya, looking thoughtful. She came back to me of her own free will, she added, not intending the truth to hurt him, but it did, for Vivian had not gone willingly with Lou on the hill of Ishnok. Oh, don't look so sad, me brother, she cooed, her grey eyes holding the sweet look of summer. Some things are simply not meant to be, she paused before stating, ever. She looked away from his pain. Perhaps you are right, Lou replied, but my heart will not accept that. Your immortality is not dependent upon her, said Anya. Anger that that he would be so thoughtless toward her. You have so many of your own followers, brother, who have kept your power alive. It is I who have been threatened with annihilation. It is she to whom I am eternally thankful for awakening me, and in return I have loved her. And it is I who gave her back the opportunity to reclaim her immortality. You, he questioned. Yes, she cried. She remembered me. She came back to me and loved me. I gave her the gift of her child. Anya's eyes grew soft, and she looked at Lou with unseen eyes, eyes fixed in the other world, the mortal world in another time and space, where a 3-year-old boy played in his sandbox. He awakened her, not me or you, she whispered, her eyes focusing back on his. She brought him back to me. She dedicated him to me. Don't you see, my brother, what that means for my immortality? She rushed to his side, grabbing Lou's arms. She kept her word, her pledge to me. How many mortals keep the vows they make to their gods? She looked at him in challenge. Lou shook his head. A strand of red hair escaped from the leather tie and slid caressing his face. His bright blue eyes wore pain. I helped, he whispered in agony. Oh, yes, you did. This is true, she said, softening his look of pain more than she could bear. But only because I asked you to aid in regenerating the dead sperm still lingering inside her womb. You did not recognize her then. To you, she was only a mortal and a favor to me. Lou could not deny that what Anya said was true. He touched her soft cheek. I was almost asleep, possibly forever, Anya said, and grew quiet. The gods were vulnerable, more so than mortals could know. And without someone to honor and worship them, their powers diminished until finally they fall asleep. And in their sleep, and if not awakened by another mortal, their light sometimes goes out. When that happens, they fall into oblivion. Their names and sacred places perish from the minds and memories and records of mortals. There were hundreds of gods and goddesses lost to oblivion because this had happened to them. And in time, even the gods could not remember who they were. Lou stroked Onya's golden hair, a soft, tender look of understanding replacing the pain in his eyes. Little sister, he whispered, you will not be forgotten as long as I live, which they both knew would be a long time. She gave him a meek smile, yes. As long as Lou was immortal, she knew she would live as well. A deep sigh moved from her, the vibrations spreading across the field, chasing the bus as it slowly bumped down the road. And as long as Vivian lived, Onya knew she would be remembered too. And before I moved to follow Vivian, I couldn't help but study the gentle face of our Munster fairy princess, so soft and caring her demeanor. There was no doubt that she had allowed herself to feel human emotion toward Vivian, and that gave me pause and great thought.
Hmm. That was good.
Thank you. That was a real life situation. Okay, I'm talking for the fairy, for the she, but that was real. All of that happened.
Really, really. That's
Yes.
why it sounds so believable, you know, comes across.
Yeah, well, I think when you write from live experience, from real experience,
Hmm.
in a novel, um,
Right.
it takes on it takes on the life of that experience, and
Sure.
it's so much easier to go the distance, to dive deep into all the emotions and aspects of that scene. It
Yeah.
was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. And what was awesome, I didn't witness, I didn't witness the light, the sunlight slicing down and illuminating where we were. I didn't witness that, but the other six did. And
Oh,
you
wow.
know, when someone other than yourself witnesses something and describes it over to you,
Hmm.
over and over again to you, you know it's truth.
Sure.
You know it's truth because they shared about it,
Yeah.
independently as well as then finally in a group setting back at the B&B. But
Right. Right.
pretty
Oh,
experience.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
this is where I'm ending today because we'll change gears a little bit. You know, we have hit the apex of the novel, and now things are going to be, uh, we still have some pages to do, but yeah. So
A good place to stop.
yeah, yeah, we're stopping on page, just in case anyone's interested, on 261. And next week we'll continue with Maka and Faery. And Faery, you know, he's in some of the other novels. He's pretty important, but he, for the first time, makes an appearance. And
Okay.
he becomes one of the focal characters
Oh,
in, and Onya and Faery
yeah.
become focal characters in book two.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the other books. I know it's a long haul.
Yeah,
You know,
but it's
but it's fun. Is anyone else out there in viewer land? If you are, I just want to take a moment, as always, and say I so appreciate you for being here. And
mhm.
I know some of you watch the replay even on Twitch, not as much on in the archives on the Faery-Chronicles YouTube channel, but I haven't really promoted that yet.
Mhm.
Um, I mention it, but I don't really promote it. But I do appreciate those of you who come in and on Twitch are watching this. So if you're watching this replay right now and you're listening to my gratitude to you, next week, come and say hello to me.
Yeah.
And maybe Lauren will be back and maybe we'll be live again. You never know. I think you should let us know whether you like us live or whether you like also being in the Elder Scrolls Online world or the last couple episodes, Palea. So there you have it, or real life.
Yeah, real life.
So thank you, Lauren, for being a special fairy godmother.
Well, it was my pleasure. I didn't do very much, but I sure enjoyed the reading.
Well, having you here is fun too. And
Yeah, it is
actually
fun.
hearing your even quiet exclamations like, it brings in that live element. So
Yeah,
I
it does.
appreciate you. Thank you for being
It's
here.
fun. Well, I'll be here next week too. But
All right, so I'm going to say goodbye. So let me just do a pinning of myself. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And I'll see you next week, next Thursday, same time, same channel, 2 p.m. my time, whatever time that means for you. Bye for now.
bye. Mm.